Rumor and innuendo are just flying abound as hot stove season is taking off. It's Card Central 365 brought to you by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Joe Roderick, Brenden Schaeffer with you here. And Brenden, we have our first little tidbit of an actual possible maybe trade that we can talk about. It's no speculation, anything like that, as Derrick Goold of the Post-Dispatch wrote just the other day about the Rangers possibly having interest in Lars Nootbaar until he had his surgery in October. Derrick also says that at least one other American League club had shown interest in the 28-year-old outfielder. So we have a team, we have a player. We know the Cardinals want to trade this player. It's just the wheels are spinning, and we finally have something we can get excited about. But Brenden, is Lars Nootbaar damaged goods? Are the Cardinals even be able to trade him away with this injury?
Yeah, that's obviously going to be the question, right? This offseason, the one that we didn't really know about until the Cardinals announced, hey, he had these Hagelin's deformities that he got shaved down and repaired surgically on both heels. And that's going to be a timeline that we found out as we talked with Matt Pauley a couple weeks ago after his conversation with Chaim Bloom that, yeah, it may take him into the 2026 regular season. They're saying, look, he's not off the table for opening day, but it's also not a guarantee that he'll be ready. With that in mind and the knowledge that, trades oftentimes happen in November, December, January, what does the market for Lars Nootbaar look like when the Cardinals, seemingly with where they are as a franchise, would be in a good spot to have willingness to move him or a player like him contract-wise and given where they are with all those lefty bats? But does that interest that the Rangers and maybe another team had in Lars Nootbaar before this little situation with the Hagelin's deformities, does that go away? Does that mean those teams are still going to be interested in him, but maybe at a lesser price? Does a decline to the trade value mean the Cardinals would maybe rather hold the player and hope that things look a little bit more robust for his market in July? I think that's kind of where we are, Joe. You mentioned it. Derrick Goold reported that there was interest. What can't really be known now is the degree to which that interest might have shifted based on the new information about Nootbaar. But I do like one connection about this. You've got Skip Schumaker there in Texas, and that's a connection that obviously he's going to have familiarity with Lars Nootbaar, right? So that's an interesting aspect of this to me that would say, look, man, if there was interest before, does it mean that because Skip Schumaker might have that interest and that intrigue with a Lars Nootbaar from his time in St. Louis and their time together, that, yeah, what's a little Hagelin's deformity among friends, right? Like the Rangers maybe would still have some interest here in Noot, which could be, I think, productive for the Cardinals if their hope and goal was to at least move one of those lefty bats and get fair value. Having the manager there in the front office's ear saying, no, this is a guy we want, this is a guy with real potential, that could actually serve the Cardinals well, I think, having that pre-existing relationship.
And we know the Rangers and the Cardinals have worked together quite a bit over recent years. So
sure,
the relationship is there within the front office, regardless of the new regime here in St. Louis. It's two organizations that have worked together, and I don't think either one feels screwed over by any of the trades in recent years that they've made with each other. But when you do look at the Rangers, though, Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia, all in their outfield right now, it's one of those where I think if you and I were looking at this and we were speculating Lars Nootbaar landing spots, I don't think you or I would have come up with the Rangers originally with this, because it seems like they have a full outfield of guys that are all under contract right now. So that's one where you look at it, you go, okay, well, how does this fit in? Or are we maybe seeing teams looking at Lars Nootbaar as a fourth outfielder and a guy that could just kind of, isn't going to be there 150 games a year, and they know that?
Yeah, I mean, that could be one way to look at it. Another way to look at it would be a way that would potentially benefit the Cardinals if they're basically saying, a guy like Adolis Garcia isn't on maybe as long-term of a contract and he's making a little bit more money. Maybe that's a guy that you go into the season with. You go into the season with Lars Nootbaar, but you have some malleability there to be able to move on from a contract at a certain point in time especially if it's after a ramp-up period for Lars Nootbaar. And so, like, maybe that's something that could benefit the Cardinals if the Rangers are going down. You know what? We've got a DH spot to play with a little bit. We've got Langford. He's a right-handed hitting outfielder. Evan Carter's a lefty. We can kind of really go either direction on adding handedness to our outfield mixture. Corner outfield spot for Lars Nootbaar. Like, there could be a fit there for sure. But also, like, how creative do the Rangers want to be this offseason, Joe? They might want to trade Adolis Garcia before the season begins. And if that's the case, then okay, maybe Lars Nootbaar would fill that spot. I think with the combination of his kind of contract and maybe as a team, they could be looking to go in a little bit of a different direction. Like, if you think about Adolis Garcia, and he'll be a free agent after 2026, I believe is the timeline for him. So one more season. If you're the Rangers and Skip Schumaker's coming in and you say, hey, Adolis Garcia has been a great player for us, really enjoy his production, but he's a huge strikeout guy. And like, when Nootbaar is at his best, he's not as much of a strikeout guy. He is a good on-base guy. He's a StatCast darling. Could they just say stylistically, like, we want to buy low on Nootbaar in hopes that he turns back into the type of player that he was before 2025, where he was dealing with these injuries, and maybe move on from an Adolis Garcia, which is maybe a player that doesn't fit what they're trying to do as much when it comes to his age and his salary and his propensity for the strikeout. So there's aspects of that where, like, if the Rangers want to be extra creative, move an outfielder to bring a different one in, like, you're allowed to do that within one singular offseason. I know that we haven't really seen that type of creativity in St. Louis under John Mozeliak, but now it's a new era here as well. And so this will give us a glimpse into what I think that the creativity kind of quotient is going to be for some of these teams, and where Nootbaar could fit, I think, could be a variety of ways, Joe. And obviously, like, the Rangers would have to give somebody up to get Lars Nootbaar in theory. 2 years remaining before he is eligible for free agency. He's going to get a bump in arbitration for sure, but didn't have a great 2025 season. I wouldn't think, like, I think Langford is a guy that you plant your flag on in Texas. He's going to be there for a long time. I think that probably is true for Evan Carter as well, but that's a name that's kind of like, I don't think they would trade him, Joe, but if I were the Cardinals, I would have interest in an Evan Carter by, like, trying to overwhelm and add to a Lars Nootbaar and say, like, that could be the type of deal. Don't think it's very realistic. More realistically, could you find, an infielder or an arm that you could swap in for a Lars Nootbaar? Could that be something that the Rangers have an appetite for? I certainly think there is some intrigue here, Joe, because we always thought, yeah, this could be an offseason where it makes sense to trade Noot based on where the Cardinals are. The surgery stuff maybe throws some cold water on that, but maybe not entirely. And maybe the Cardinals are at a point where, with their new front office, they're just looking to make decisive moves, to make decisions that then set up what the next iteration of the team looks like. And maybe they wouldn't let a little bit of a depressed value for Nootbaar get in the way of what they're hoping to do this offseason. I'm going to be very intrigued to see if there remains that type of interest for Noot, even though there is some uncertainty about just exactly when he'll be able to debut in 2026.
The report also mentioned there was another American League name on the list. We'll talk about that. But first, I do want to remind everybody that coming up in just a matter of weeks, in fact, coming up in a matter of 1 week, you can start to download and create your account in DraftKings. If you live in Missouri, starting November 17th, you can do that and get ready for the launch day of December 1st. And on December 1st, you can partake in the live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action right from your phone. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code STL Sports when you place that first $5 bet when we go live on December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
So when you look at the report, like I mentioned, it does say another American League team on there. I'm sure there's a couple that we could maybe just cross off the list to begin, but it's fun to speculate as to who that could possibly be in the mix of American League teams. And one that we, I think, should look at for next year, just possibly an all-in type of situation, would be a team like the Angels, who we know they hired Kurt Suzuki on a 1-year deal. So I'm excited. I'm intrigued to see how aggressive a team like that will be going into the offseason, knowing, hey, you know what? We have a manager that's got one shot at this, and a GM who's also on his last year that's tied to this manager. And it's both of them are trying to prove everything to the organization. It's, how far are we going to go? The last big free agent you signed wasn't great on the field in Rendon. So it's kind of like, okay, what do you have for me this go around? Let's see how big of a splash we can make.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear Perry is going to have to make some moves to keep his gig. I mean, and make some moves and have them work, because I don't know, if you're on the final year of a contract as an executive running the baseball ops, I don't think you can just kind of sit on your hands and hope that what you've had just suddenly works out for you. Like, I think you have to probably be moderately aggressive, and maybe there's not, I don't know what Artie Moreno is telling him from a spending standpoint. You might have to do it more so with the trade market and figuring out ways to improve your team that way. And so I think Lars Nootbaar, and obviously for him, going to Southern California, I think would be attractive for him from a personal standpoint. So like that could be a fit for sure. But the Cardinals aren't, I don't think, and nor should they be in the business of trying to find a soft landing spot for guys. Like, they need to make sure they're getting something back in return that makes sense. I'm not sure with the Angels what that would be. Haven't really dug in too much on their team. I have said for a while now, though, that I'm a big fan of Reed Detmers, the left-handed pitcher for them that has had been a starter. He's a former first-round pick and didn't really pan out so much as a starting pitcher. Had a solid year last year as a reliever, but feels like a flexible guy and had good, strikeout to innings pitched ratio and good fielding independent pitching. Like, had a solid year for them last year in the bullpen. I would trade Lars Nootbaar for Reed Detmers, no doubt about it. I have no idea if that's realistic at all, but I feel like those are the type of names where you're like, all right, guy that's had potential, guy that's performed in maybe a lesser role, but has still got a little bit of team control remaining. A lot of times the arms that fit that description are always going to be more valuable than the bats that do. So I don't know that you can probably get him for Lars Nootbaar, but that's a target that I would say would be worthwhile. And then you say, look, yeah, would you like to be a starter, kid? You're 26. Like, you've had multiple seasons of experience with that. And here's the things that we think you could do to be successful. The Cardinals need a guy like that, in my opinion. So I would add probably a minor league pitcher to a Lars Nootbaar to swing a Reed Detmers with a few years of team control. So I like him. I don't know if you had anybody from the Rangers that you were looking at when it came to the Nootbaar stuff, but I think like that's the way to think about this offseason. If you're the Cardinals, is like, okay, there are teams that want our guys. We kind of have a surplus when it comes to left-handed hitting outfielders or position players in general. We need an arm. Can we get one, even if it's not one of your top guys? Is it somebody that could compete for us here within the next year or two, or maybe it's a guy that has lost a little bit of shine, just like kind of like Lars Nootbaar has at the plate, and maybe you want to swap them, because the Cardinals, again, I don't think, as Chaim Bloom said, are looking to concede anything. I don't think they'll be great this next year and maybe even the year after that, but that doesn't mean you can't go out and get a player that feels kind of like a reclamation target and turn him into somebody that can compete for you and compete with you right now, and maybe make your team better in 2026 so that you don't have to have as long of a timeline. Those would be the types of moves that I would be hoping to see the Cardinals make. Could it be more realistic, Joe, if they're trading a Nootbaar, that they're doing it for a double-A piece that's not even going to be 40-man eligible yet? Like, that's very possible too. But until we see the moves start to play out, those details will be what tell us as far as the direction the Cardinals are heading.
Yeah, and that's the point I was going to make too. We just have no idea where what the Cardinals are planning on doing this year, and I don't think we will know until that first move is made. So that first domino falls, we won't know what Chaim Bloom has planned or what direction he's been told to plan for the upcoming 2026 season. Let us know in the comments, what do you want to see the Cardinals get back for somebody like a Lars Nootbaar? If the reports of the Rangers being interested are accurate, let us know who you think, who you like from that Rangers team, that Rangers organization. That would be that you would consider a win if the Cardinals decided to trade fan favorite Lars Nootbaar. We love seeing the comments there. And while you're at it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button in YouTube as well. Until tomorrow, though, he's Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Card Central 365, brought to you by DraftKings here on STL Sports Central.